All right. Hey, how's it going? As you can see, I've got my Bertram over here. It was a project getting a trailer out from it. So I was on YouTube and I did a lot of looking at how to get trailers out from underneath boats. And I've seen it done at the marina, but I've never done it before. This is my first time. I knew the concept behind it. Support the boat, move the trailer out a little bit at a time, move the support behind, move another support behind one of these beams on a trailer, and then incrementally move the trailer out from underneath the boat. Yeah, I get it. So you can see it's time to paint the bottom of this thing. It is bad. This is a fairly quick boat for a 1968 Bertram Bahia. It's got a Volvo pennant in it and counter-rotating stainless steel props, so it gets out of its own way pretty quickly for an old pickup truck of a boat. Does a little better than 50, and it tends to rip the bottom right off the boat. So I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do as far as bottom paint yet. We'll update you on that when I get around to that. I just wanted to talk to you. I'm not very good at videotaping things while I'm doing it because I'm trying to figure it out as I'm going. So I'll show you what I did, and hopefully you can reconstruct that. I also have a sailboat over here. It's all covered up. I live in Washington State, so it rains here constantly. So I cover everything up the best I can. So you'll see that I have done the bottom on this a couple years ago. I don't know. It could use some more attention now, but what I built to do this job was this thing. I built this big bad Billy to go on the stern of the sailboat. Big support. 4x6s treated because I like things to last forever. Once I build them, I don't want them to rot. However, I didn't have any marine grade plywood or anything like that, so I just use regular plywood. Hell, I can replace the plywood on it eventually. I just didn't want to spend the money on it. But that was for the stern. What I built for the bow of the sailboat was this thing. Right, and you can see that, and that went on the bow of the sailboat. Well, I figured, well, this boat's a lot lower, so this is going to work for the stern of this boat. And you can see right here, these are rubber track pads. They're old track pads from a Bradley fighting vehicle, and we replaced the track pads on it, which you have to do periodically to those. And I thought to myself, well, damn, I could probably use those for something. And so I filled my truck up with hundreds of these friggin' track pads, and I've used them for a number of projects around the house, but I also have given them a lot of them away to other guys, and I have a few left. But anyway, so these things work great for this. I wedged it. You can see in all the wedges I have done on this job, you can see I've used 8 sinkers to support to tack the wedges in place. So they're not just sitting there, they're tacked in place. I also backed up the back of the boat so it wouldn't roll at all, making sure it wasn't going to roll backwards with this big 4x6 kicker. If you're familiar with concrete work, this is the same style kicker that would kick off a concrete form. It's stuck here with a flat piece of 2x. So the 4x6 is going into a 2x that's flat on the ground, and then I got 2 concrete style stakes going deep into the ground that stop that thing from going anywhere backwards. Okay, and then I've got this set up, and I haven't seen anybody build anything quite like this. But since I am a union carpenter, this is what I came up with. Let's see if I can show it to you real well here. So these are a selection of either 4x6s or 4x4s, but basically it's this log cabin idea until you get to the top, and then I got a wedge in here, holding this one going that way. I got a wedge in the other side of this one, holding it this way, and back and forth. So the 4x are on the hull of the boat this way instead of just on one pressure point in the middle, like I've seen a lot of people do it. These are all holding that way and that way along the hull. And again, these are tacked in with 8 sinkers. Everything is tacked together with sinkers. So so nothing's gonna vibrate apart or anything like that. I mean, we do this type of stuff with concrete all the time, and with concrete you've got to vibrate the concrete and nothing comes apart. Well, rarely it comes apart. Hopefully it won't come apart on me. So here's the same sort of thing on the front, a little bit differently. Sorry. And there we go. So same kind of log cabin idea, and then a 4x4 going forward and aft and at an angle, so it's nice and flush up against the hull. And you'll see that if I come around like this, the 2 of them are like that. So that's coming from the stern of the boat looking forward, and both of the 4x are canted to sit flat on the hull instead of sitting flat on the 4x4 below it. And these are you know, everything's tacked in with nails. So I feel pretty confident in it. However, because I'm one of these guys that feels like something like this is going to kill me one day, I'm using this thing that was the support for the stern of the sailboat. So when I plan on working on this side of the boat, I'm going to set this thing just against it, right? So it's just going to set against there. So if it decides to roll my way, this bad Billy's going to catch it. I feel like that's a insurance plan. Not that I don't trust this thing, because this thing in the back is pretty freaking stout. You can see how it's built here. It's got you know, one big long 4x6 running on the bottom, right, and then 2 4x6s running up to these track pads that are wedged in place. And then I've got, this is screwed in a billion times with little screws, well, a bunch of times with little screws. It's screwed in all along the bottom with regular deck screws, but then it's got 4 lag bolts per side here, 2 on this side and then 2 on the back side to hold it, to make sure it's just not going to fail and go off to the side in any way. And the other one's the same way. So you know, I think the one trick that I want to share with you as far as getting the trailer out from underneath the boat, the one thing that was kind of like what I felt like thinking outside the box was, how did I get the boat up this high to begin with to get this underneath it? Well, I just jacked the trailer up. So I jacked one, you know, I had just one jack, a 20-ton hydraulic jack, and a bunch of jack stands, a couple of jack stands. I used 2 jack stands and a couple of pieces of good thick 5/8 plywood. And I set the jack on the plywood so it wouldn't sink into the dirt, and then jacked up the trailer and set the jack stand underneath the trailer. Then I took the jack around, and the jack stand was also sitting on a piece of plywood. Then I took the jack around to the other side and did the same thing, jacked it up, and then I slid this sucker underneath it and blocked it off in the back there, and had this thing in there nice and secure before I started to pull the trailer out at all. And then And of course, that was with the trailer's tongue all the way down to lift the back of the boat, lift the stern of the boat as far up as I could. Anyway, and then once I had this underneath it, and I just raised the tongue of the trailer back up a little, pardon me, and it brought the bunks down away from the bottom of the boat, leaving the bottom of the back of the boat suspended. And then I started this stuff. I went to the front and jacked the front of the trailer all the way up and stuck that stuff underneath it. I did use the jack here and there, but generally, just with manipulating the tongue of the trailer, I was able to pull the trailer out. Another thing I did, because the trailer's tires, sorry, I'm not very good at this video thing, so forgive me for that, okay? The trailer's tires were sitting in these ruts. I got one rut there and one rut there, and so the tires were sitting down a little bit. They've been sitting here since the summer of 2018, so they've sunk into the dirt a little bit. It's 2020 now. Depending on when you're watching this, that could be relevant. Anyway, so now as the trailer's being pulled out, it's going to go up out of the rut, and so it's going to get closer to the boat. Well, it was getting a little too close to the boat for my comfort, so I aired the tires down. All the tires, it's got 4 tires on it, it's a tandem trailer. I aired the tires down to 10 pounds per tire, and that gave the tires plenty, maintained plenty of rolling ability, yet lowered the trailer bunks enough to where they weren't touching the bottom of this boat at all, regardless of the tires coming out of the ruts and that. And so I'm sorry for not videotaping that while I did it. I'm just not good at that. So anyway, I hope this helps out. I watched a lot of videos and was still kind of left in the dark on how to really get this thing done. I think I did okay. With my insurance plan here, that I'm going to swap to different sides as I go, because it's not obviously going to fall straight down. It's got too much wood underneath it to fall straight down unless the ground somehow, there's a sinkhole here in Washington State, and since we're not in Florida, I'm not worried about sinkholes. It's definitely going to roll one side to the other if something fails. And so with this thing here, I think that'll catch it hopefully long enough for my old ass to get out from underneath it. Right? Anyway, you do what you can do. You're as safe as you can be, and then you get the job done, right? Anywho, enjoy. Good luck with your boat, with your project, and you'll see me back talking about the bottom coatings, because I'm not really sure about what to go with this thing, because it is for an old pickup truck of a boat. This thing's been with me since 1979. About followed my dad and I home from Florida when he bought it there, and so we've had this boat in the family since I was a kid, and love it to death. I hope it doesn't kill me. Anyway, have a good one.